Welcome, everybody, to the Jurassic Park Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Jost, and today we're going to be discussing our spoiler-free thoughts on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Season 5. And I'm not here by myself today. I'm here with the one and only Tom Jurassic. What's going on, dude? How are you doing?
5 seasons of doing this together, man. So much time.
We have watched a lot of TV, and I've watched it like multiple times. Not this season, actually. I've only watched this season one time so far, and it was a crunch. We literally just got it, and then hours later, we are recording.
Yep.
No joke. It's not even, I don't even think a full day since we got it.
I woke up at 7:30 to watch it.
Yeah, and then I got a message from you that you were all done, and I'm like, dude, I only got through 6 of them last night, so I have 6 more to get through today. But we did it. We got through them, and we're going to give you our non-spoiler takes. But before we do that, I wanted to give a huge thank you to Dreamworks for sending us the screeners ahead of time. This one came down to the wire, but we still really appreciate it. It's always great for us to be able to put together some content for everybody and have something to talk about here before the show comes out and to get our stuff situated here on our end. So we really appreciate it. And yeah, I guess that's it. Let's oh wait, one more note. We are going to be doing a full spoiler chat as well. So just stay tuned for that. That's going to be probably the day that the show comes out, which is the 21st of July. We'll probably post that as well. So just a few days later, you'll get the full spoiler chat. But for now, spoiler-free reactions. Faces. Yeah. And we're going to make this one quick. We're not going to go too crazy because we can't really say a lot because there's a lot of things that you can't reveal about this season. And I don't want to. So we're not going to be revealing anything. We're just going to give you general thoughts and ideas, and then we'll get into it all in the spoiler chat in a few days. But Tom, give me your thoughts coming out of season 4. How did season 4 work, and how were you thinking about season 4 as you headed into this season 5?
Yeah. So I thought season 4 was quite jarring in a lot of aspects. I think mainly it's fair to say for the technology, it was a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, and I totally understand why.
Sure.
And it kind of just went in a bit of a weird direction, I guess, really. So coming into this, I was sort of interested to see how they would be able to rein it back in a little bit and maybe do something a little bit more grounded for the final outing in the show.
Yeah, I know the last season was, it had a bit of a reaction online, I guess you could say, right? Like it was, I guess a lot of people pointed that at me. It was all my fault because of the Brads, right? There was a whole thing about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when I watched season 4 initially, I struggled with it. And then I watched it again, and I kind of got a little bit more into it. And as I've sat with the show for a little bit now, how long has it been? When did we last get this? Was it around December, right?
While.
It's been since
it was
December.
Pre-Dominion.
So and pre-Dominion, a lot has happened in the past 6 months or so, and or longer. So I've had time to sit with it, and I've come to appreciate it a little bit more in a lot of those aspects of control and stuff like that. So I was really digging it, actually. Yes, it's wild and out there and definitely just off the wall a little bit, but I came to appreciate that, for what it was, and I dug it after a while. But so going into season 5, I actually was a little bit more hyped up. I was like, all right, I'm excited. I don't really have a problem with it, with anything. So I'm just going to go in, have fun. And, this being the conclusion, I'm really excited to see how everything ends and all that. So I'm pleased going into season 5. So let me get your take. Like I said, we don't really want to go too deep or anything, but Tom, give me your take on season 5. What did you think about it? Give me some points here, to talk about.
It's a TV show.
Oh, okay. All right. It is. That is very truthful. Very much a TV show. Elaborate.
I would say season 5 for me, and we spoke about this a little bit before the recording, it definitely landed differently for me than I think it did for you. And I think for me, it's because it feels like very run of the mill Camp Cretaceous to me, if that makes sense. It feels a lot like season 2 to me, where I felt like there was a lot of filler. And I kind of got the same feeling here with this season. It sort of felt as if we were going through various different motions on various different things that unfold throughout the show, but ultimately it didn't feel any more climactic than other elements of the series that have come beforehand. And I think I say in my non-spoiler review, there's a phrase I use which is, it fundamentally feels like Camp Cretaceous, but I'm not sure if that's a good thing this many seasons in. And I think that just boils down to the fact that with television, I feel like you should always be pushing the stakes a little bit more and pushing the envelope season by season, trying new things. And this really more, to me, sort of felt like very much the TV show that we've come to know over the past couple of years, if that makes sense.
Sure, I can kind of sympathize with your thoughts there, because there was a lot of back and forth and just things that, like, when I'm thinking back to it, because look, this is all a blur. We literally just watched this all and stuff. So my notes are like really terrible this time around and all that. But I think I understand what you mean a little bit, because when I was watching it, I thought, man, like, they're just going from thing to thing, and not a ton is like being impactful here. Like, I'm not really feeling a lot of like what they're doing that it matters in the grand story. But you know, that being said, I thought it was very fast paced. At times I thought, like, man, they're just doing things, they're going places, doing all this stuff, getting stuff done. And it felt like they got to the point quickly in a lot of the topics that maybe we wanted to know about, and the things that we were eager to learn about. That was like, oh wow, okay, here we are. We're in this story now. So I thought, wow, okay, that's pretty cool that they're doing it fast. They're getting there. And I thought I was, in many ways, I was very emotional with a lot of these characters and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, and I thought it had a nice ending. I thought it had a nice ending. But you know, this is going to be tough, because like I want to talk about a few different things, but with these spoiler-free reviews, it is always so difficult to, because I don't like just sitting here stumbling over words trying to find the right thing to say, because like it's impossible. There's not really anything to say realistically about this season other than like, well, I felt like this or I felt like that. So give me a few thoughts on that. Being said, give me a few thoughts on like the characters. Let's go for the characters.
The characters are handled really well, actually. There's some really interesting developments in terms of their interpersonal relationships in this season. And I think there's also some really interesting conflict that's baked into a few of the relationships between the characters that really helps to make this season feel three-dimensional. And I think overall, where we leave the characters at the end of this season gives us a nice overarching story when it comes to this really being a tale about coming into adulthood, and them going from the kids that we see in season 1 to then where they end up in this series. I think it just has a nice transition, and you sort of see everything that they've learned in the past seasons come into fruition in this season.
Yeah, you know, I was trying to I wanted to look up the tagline or the synopsis here for this show, but instead I forgot that I got an email about Gabby's Dollhouse from Dreamworks, and I'm like, that's not the right one. I got to bring up a different email.
I couldn't believe when Gabby's Dollhouse cameoed. It really was incredible.
Yeah. Because I just wanted to go over what it says just to kind of see. It says the arrival of Kenji's father, Mr. Khan, renews hope oh my gosh, I can't read. Renews hope of a rescue for the campers, but as the nefarious plans of Manticore come into focus, one of the camp fam turns on their own. The others must band together if they want to save the dinosaurs and ever make it home. So yeah, there's that lingering thought of like one of the camp fam turns on their own, and I think that portion makes things definitely a bit emotional for me. I was like really sympathizing with a lot of these characters that are like dealing with struggle about like somebody turning on them, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So I appreciated that. Plus, there's a lot of other dynamics in this season with relationships of these characters that I was like, wow, mind blown. Like, this is great. I love where they're going with this, and certainly we'll talk more about that in spoiler chats. But yeah, I was really excited. I was really excited by like the risks the show took and the ways that they went with these characters. So I thought it was really great.
Yeah. I think it's interesting in many ways because I may be jumping the gun here, but I think the characters in terms of their campers, they're handled really well. But then I think the characters when it comes to the dinosaurs, that's where there was again a little bit to be desired by me. And that's primarily because I feel like we've sort of added new animals to the roster every season, and without spoiling too much, there's not as many new additions in this season, so it feels a lot more like a menagerie of what's come beforehand than anything else. And that's not a bad thing because you get to revisit some of the animals that have appeared elsewhere in the season, but it was just a shame to not see them experimenting with other things as well. And you can see I keep looking at the ceiling as I'm thinking about how to phrase things.
No, I definitely get you there. I was actually thinking the same thing because previous conversations about these seasons is that like, wow, I really dug where they went with some of these new dinosaurs and things like that. And that being said, yeah, I did dig what they were doing, but there wasn't as much of that. So that, yeah, you're right there. But what they did with the dinosaurs we have, I thought there was some pretty cool moments. I thought visually they kind of looked really great. Like I'm always like so surprised with how these dinosaurs look and how certain aspects of because I hear people talk about Camp Cretaceous or these kinds of shows, and they're like, yeah, it's just some watered down thing that it doesn't look very good, and at times I can understand, but like I actually really dug like how they looked in this season. I was like, man, like that dinosaur looks really cool. Like it's really sharp and it looks like realistic.
I know, I couldn't believe that specific dinosaur. It was wow.
I don't know about that one, but specifically like talk about like past seasons you had like Baryonyx Chaos or something. Like Chaos like looked like it was taken straight out of a movie. Like it was like you can't tell the difference. Other times like they don't blend as well with the films, but like I'm like, wow, I think they did a cool job in this season, and I really liked how they looked. But yeah, any further thoughts on the dinosaurs or the characters at all, or is that good?
I think that's all I can say in this non-spoiler
okay,
episode.
all right. Let's talk a little bit about world building. So how did, and this is not really a topic that we can touch on too much, but I just want to know, like, do you think that they satisfied, the world that has been built previously out of these 4 seasons and the larger Jurassic universe? What do you think about that?
I personally wasn't that satisfied. And without going into too many details, I just feel as though they built up a lot of momentum. They built up a lot of interest in certain elements of the story, and then they kind of glossed past them very, very quickly. And I would have liked to have seen a lot more depth in those areas of the story. And I'll go into more detail about this in the spoiler review, but I just feel like there were a few opportunities in this season that they really missed to do some meaningful stuff that would have had a wider impact across the rest of the canon of the universe. Because despite what people may say on Twitter, they have not said that this is non-canon. So currently, for me, I still consider this show canon. So suck on those lemons.
Okay, well, yeah. So going off of that phrase, I can understand
Cut.
that, and I, I kind of agree. Yeah, whatever's said on Twitter is different than reality a lot of the times. But I think there were a lot of elements that were like zipped by for sure. And yeah, I liked the ties to the world building, and I liked the everything that I saw there, and I thought they did some things justice. And I think at whole or on the whole, I think they built this world. How do I want to say this? Um, they did some very important things for the Jurassic universe that I think are very cool to see. But at the same time, like you're saying, some of those things felt rushed. But
Yeah.
but yeah, this is a really hard one to talk about. But
So do
oh
come
man,
back for our spoiler
I
show, because there is lots to talk about
there's a
when it
lot to
comes to
talk
the world
about.
building.
There was one moment where I just started thinking about, and I got real smiley because I was like, oh, that was very cool. That was really cool. And let's talk about the story a little bit, I guess, and just like, how did it work? Did it work for you? I just reviewed what the story was about, the log line there for season 5. Did it work for you story-wise? And that's the thing for me is with the story, it's like, this is the end. This is the conclusion, and I think for me, it worked because they satisfied a lot of stuff that I was hoping they would, and they did it. They did a lot of things justice for me. I thought like they did a good job with the
Yeah.
story from where they built off of season 4. So I was happy with it. But like we were saying before, there was a lot of time that felt like I was like, wow, like there's things in here that I just like. I feel like it's a little bloated at times, like you were saying. Like there's a little bit of
Yeah.
back and forth that I'm like, I don't really know. I feel like we've been just going back and forth so many times that I don't even know where I am anymore. But but I will say that like outside of some of those moments, I was like, all right, we're moving fast, we're getting this done, and the story is progressing in an interesting way for me, and wrapping up nicely. I thought that was really good. I thought it was a good, a completion there, a conclusion, which is like nice because, the conclusion is a big topic nowadays. I thought,
Yeah.
Dominion is going on, and they're talking about that is the epic conclusion or whatever they're calling it. And so conclusions are a big thing right now. And I thought they concluded this series in a way that made me satisfied. So that was good.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. I think the story for me, I'll be honest, it was lacking a bit. There was more that I wanted to see out of certain story threads. I understand the reason why season 4 and season 5 play out in the way they do when you think about the broader context of the story it's being told. But I can go into justifying this next statement more in our spoiler show, but essentially for me, I almost feel like this series could have quite happily ended at season 3. And I'll explain why when we go into that spoiler show. So
Yeah.
again, do come back for that, please.
I think at the end of the day, you have to look at this season and say, why does it exist? Or not this season, but this series, and just say like, why does
Yeah.
it exist? Why is it here? What is the point?
Yeah.
And
Why are we all
also,
here? What is the point of human
Okay.
existence?
we do need to know
It's
those
always
things as well.
darkest just before eternal nothingness.
I'm so bummed. Let me tell you, I'm so bummed that Camp Cretaceous didn't explain why we are all here in the world and in life.
Yeah.
It was a bummer. But
I don't know about you, but I thought that Camp Cretaceous was going to be a cartoon version of Ian Malcolm's book, and I was sorely disappointed that it wasn't.
Yeah, no, but I think at the end of the day, you have to think like, what was the point? Was there some goal at the end of the day for the show? And
Yeah.
you also have to realize that like we are not necessarily the demographic, right? Like we are
100%.
adults watching a kids show, and yes, I watch with my kids and stuff like that, so they're really into the show as well, and it works really well for them. Like they don't care about any of the stuff that we've just been talking about at all whatsoever. That's the best part. And I appreciate that because they've built a show that we can have these conversations about and we can talk deeply about. And and even get upset about, certain aspects and get excited about certain aspects. But also it works really, really well on a level that it's intended for, which is the kids. So we can't ever forget that. We can't forget that is who it's made for. So I think story, I think they've really excelled with a lot of the elements of the story, but yeah, I can sympathize with a lot of what you're saying, that it didn't necessarily hit the mark. And I definitely know what you mean in regards of like season 3, like that's where you stop. Like that would have been a nice ending or something. So yeah, but I don't know that there's a lot more we can really go into unless you have any other further takes about this season. But yeah,
I think it's just worth reflecting on the context of the series as a whole from a non-spoiler perspective. And I think it's been really interesting seeing Jurassic's first television outing. And I think there's definitely been a lot of highs. There's certainly been some more interesting moments. And I think overall it's been a good experience, and I'm glad that we've had the chance to get Jurassic media that we haven't had the opportunity to experience in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important. Like I said, it works so well for kids, but also for Jurassic fans out there. It has been really, really fun. Like I've really enjoyed going over the show and talking about how it connects to things and how much fun it is. And yes, like it's been fun kind of diving into some of those more wild moments and things that maybe don't make as much sense or whatever. But like, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's pretty great. I thought the overall experience of this show through the 5 seasons has been a lot of fun for me. So I'm excited. I'm excited by this show and the first outing, like you said, first legitimate, show for Jurassic. That's a big deal, and I think it did a good job. I think it did a really good job.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think overall it's been awesome, and it's been awesome getting to break them all down with you. And I'm looking forward to doing our spoiler episode. Totally not on the same day in the same recording session.
Totally not at all. Yeah. But all right. So that's it for the non-spoiler chat here. But Tom, do you have anything you want to tell people about, like what you're working on?
Yes.
What kind of articles or videos? What do you got going on?
Please, if you haven't already, check out the podcast that I did with Kevin Jenkins, who is the production designer from Jurassic World Dominion. It was a really, really fun and insightful conversation with somebody who was on set working on Dominion. So do go and check that one out, because I had a lot of fun putting it together.
Yeah, that was a fantastic episode, and I know you've got some content here for Camp Cretaceous season 5. So why don't you let people know about that as well?
There will be a non-spoiler written review on our website, and then a different this time, because I actually had time to not just read the article out loud. So a slightly different video non-spoiler review on the channel as well, about 5 minutes in length. So do feel free to check that out for a broken down perspective on the new season ahead of it debuting.
Awesome. Well, that's at Tom Jurassic over there on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Brad Jost. You can follow the podcast at Jurassic Park Pod. We are on that's Twitter at Jurassic Park Podcast, on Instagram. We are on Facebook, but whatever. Everywhere. JurassicParkPodcast.com.
We're even in the Upside Down.
We're in the Upside Down currently, yep. But I was like, can I mess with the effects right now to make it look like Tom is upside down? I'm just realizing that this shelf has like really nothing on it, so I have to fix that at some point. I just
fix it in post. It's fine.
So fix it in post. But yeah, that's I think that's about it. So stay tuned for our full spoiler chat coming up soon. And make sure to tune in to Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous on July 21st. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a good time. So, and I'm looking forward to the discussion and hearing what others think out there. It's going to be wild, that's for sure. But thank you, Tom. What do you say we get out of here?
Let's go ahead and get on out.
Bye, everybody.